Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I'm trying to get back in the swing of uploading videos on a more regular basis. If you have seen previous videos, you know that it has been a while because life has been busy. So if you are returning, like I said, thank you. And if you are new, welcome. I hope you enjoy today's content. So I'm Lydia and this is Vintage Nectarines. Today I want to talk about the Murder, She Read Readathon that was hosted in the month of March by Abby of the Disney Sisters. Sorry, my puppy is in here and walking around. And Heather of the Disney Housewife and the lovely Nina of Wrestling with Books and Wrestling with Disney. I realized I didn't say the lovely Abby and the lovely Heather. All three of them are lovely. So I really loved the idea of doing a Murder, She Read Readathon that was inspired by the always amazing Jessica Fletcher and Murder, She Wrote. I remember watching Murder, She Wrote when I was younger. It was one of my grandmother's favorite shows, and so she and I would watch it together. And I think that really kind of solidified my love for detectives and kind of these oddball characters like Jessica Fletcher and Father Brown and all of these people who aren't detectives who help solve crimes. But it also just kind of solidified my whole love for murder mysteries and cozy murder mysteries. So I was really excited about the idea of this. I had, however, already decided that I wanted to participate in Middle Grade March. So I do know that several people who participate in Middle Grade March actually have specific prompts and books that they read, but because I wanted to do both, I chose instead to do the prompts from the Murder, She Read readathon. Hi, Peppers. And just pair those with middle grade books. Did you drop my pen? Did you drop my pen? So what I did was use the prompts that Abby and Nina and Heather created and just selected middle grade books that I thought would go. I had only planned on reading 4 books to complete one episode because each episode had 4 different prompts. But I actually ended up reading 8 books total in March, but one of which was a middle grade book. My buddy read with my bestie Rachel would fit a prompt. So I was like, I actually completed 2 episodes. So before I show you the books that I chose and what my episodes were, I'm going to go over all of the prompts. Okay, so your episode had a setting, and those options were Cabot Cove, a book with a small town; New York City, a book with a big city in it; Ireland, a book set in an international setting; or Los Angeles, a book set in a fantasy world. Your sidekick options were Seth, read a book recommended by a friend; Amos, read a book that will make you laugh; Grady, read a romance; Mort, read a book in a series; Dennis, read a classic; and Harry, read a book featuring a detective. Your victim options were a wealthy businessman with a greedy family; read a book based near water; a reporter who got in over their head; read a book with a newspaper or a reporter; a producer set to cut some cast members; read a book about movies or TV; a maid who overheard something she shouldn't; read a book set in a hotel or a mansion; a politician with an unpopular opinion; read a book with mixed reviews; lastly, a professor famous for giving out bad grades; read a book set in a school. And then the last thing your episode needed to have, of course, was a suspect, and those options were Jessica's niece or nephew; read a book about family; the victim's business partner; read a book with multiple authors; the new girl in town; read a book where the main character has just moved in; an undercover spy; read a book where someone has a hidden identity; a crooked cop; read a mystery; and finally, an up-and-coming actress; read a debut. So, okay, I wrote down, I have like all of my notes. I will do my best to remember as much details as I can for you guys so that I can give you like a proper wrap up of these books, but there were a lot of them, and I have read, I think, 7 books since finishing these. So here we go. Okay, so for my first episode, my setting was in Los Angeles, read a book set in a fantasy world, and I read Alor, The Accidental Apprentice from Amanda Foody. This was my very first Amanda Foody book, and I really loved it. And seriously, can we just talk about how gorgeous this cover art is? I saw this book last year on Instagram, didn't know anything about it, and instantly decided that I was gonna have to have this book because it's just beautiful. And so last year on International Indie Bookstore Day, my friend Rachel and I went to our independent local bookstore, Auntie's, and I saw it in the kids section, and I instantly was like, yep, buying it. I didn't know anything about it, but it was really fun. So let's go ahead and read what it says. It says, the last thing Barclay Thorne ever wanted was an adventure. Thankfully, since he's an apprentice of Dolshire's mushroom farmer, the most exciting mission he'd ever faced is searching for the elusive Morningtide Morel. Until the day Barclay accidentally breaks Dolshire's most sacred rule: never, ever, ever stray into the woods, for within the woods lurks various magical beasts. To Barclay's horror, he faces a fate far worse than being eaten. He unwittingly bonds with a beast and is run out of town by an angry mob. Determined to break his bond and return home, Barclay journeys deep into the woods to seek help from a mysterious lore keeper. People who willingly bond with beasts and share their powers. But after braving a dangerous apprenticeship exam and discovering that his own beast might not be so bad after all, Barclay must make a difficult choice: return to the home he's always known, or embrace the adventure awaiting him. So I do believe there are going to be more books in the series because it kind of leaves off kind of like, I mean, it wraps it up, but there's definitely like, you could take this further. So I think there might be more books. But basically the premise is that one day while Barclay is out in the woods looking for a particular mushroom that he needs, he sees a young girl trying to catch an elusive and very dangerous beast, and accidentally bonds with the beast himself. And he, of course, then knows that he can no longer return to Dolshire because they are very against all the beasts. And so the mushroom farmer sends him packing and tells him this like very cryptic, you were never meant for this place message, as almost as if he knew something like this was going to happen. And so Barclay sets off with this young girl to figure out how he can undo his bond with this beast and go back home. Well, he ends up being entered into this tournament because he speaks to one of the lore keepers, and the lore keeper tells him that if he enters this tournament and wins, she will tell him how to break his bond. And so he meets this whole cast of characters who also have bonded with beasts, and he competes in these different trials, and there's a little bit of mystery, and there's definitely some whimsy and some fantasy, and I really just loved it. It was such a fun story. I loved it. I do believe I gave it 5 stars. I'll put my star rating down here, but I'm pretty sure it was 5 for me. And it was so cute. There's dragons, and his beast is kind of like this wolf thing. I really, really enjoyed it. So I definitely recommend it if you like middle grade books. If you personally don't like middle grade books, but you have young readers in your life, I think they would enjoy it. Okay, so my sidekick for episode 1 was Harry. Read a book featuring a detective. And you guys, this was one of my most anticipated reads of 2022. I received it as a gift in my bookish advent from Rachel. I am so sad I didn't film a Freaky Friday fiction video for it because I think it would have been so fun to take you guys along while reading it. I'm kind of regretting that I didn't, but that's okay. But for my sidekick prompt, I read Aggie Morton, Mystery Queen, The Body Under the Piano by Martha Jocelyn. You guys. So this book is supposed to be about young Agatha Christie and her friend, Hercule Poirot. I love this book so much. So one of my favorite things about this book is that it makes this fun, like made up and fictional friendship between her and Poirot. And so like if you've ever read Agatha's books, you know that Poirot became her most famous detective. Personally, my favorite is still Mrs. Marple, but in this book, like they knew each other as children and they were friends, and I loved their friendship and how quirky he was as a young person, and how you can see little pieces of his personality that Agatha wrote into her books in this character. It was just super sweet. So this says, Aggie Morton lives in an English seaside town in 1902. Highly inventive and deeply shy, Aggie is still mourning the death of her beloved father and has developed what her mother calls a morbid preoccupation. She spends her solitary hours composing ghastly tales and fictional endeavors for made-up friends. But an opportunity for real friendship and adventure is coming Aggie's way. First, she crosses paths with a Belgian boy named Hector Perrault, or Hercule Perrault. Then, one morning, a dead body appears on the floor of the mermaid dance room. Aggie's family may think that a murder case is no place for a 12-year-old, but Aggie and Hector know better. They observe what others miss, and the police are no match for Aggie's keen imagination. With a village full of suspects, the two sleuths apply their insatiable curiosity, deductive skills, and a little bit of nosiness learned from Aggie's sharp-eyed Granny Jane to solve the crime. Filled with mystery and excitement, unforgettable characters, and several helpings of tea and sweets, The Body Under the Piano is a delightful and thrilling first book in a series about being brave, finding your voice, embracing the unexpected, and cracking the case. So, one day, Aggie returns to the mermaid dance room and they find a body under the piano. And she instantly notices things that the police do not. And so her and Hector decide to try and figure out the case. He's the one who's a little hesitant and she's all in. And I just really love seeing like how young Aggie is developed in this, and how you can see that she, you know, she's interested in writing, and so she writes stories and she makes up things. And so it's building up to who Agatha Christie became as a murder mystery author. And I just really like that. And I loved her grandmother, Jane. Everyone else seems very bothered by the fact that Aggie has this preoccupation for death, and her grandmother almost in a way encourages it. And I just thought that was really cute. So I don't want to give too much away because you really do have to read the story, because just like an Agatha Christie novel, you kind of think it's going one way and then it goes a different way. And so there's not a whole lot that can be said without giving it away. But I just love it. And I love all of the illustrations of the characters on the inside. I thought they were really cute. So again, definitely a 5-star read for me. I really loved it. This is probably one of my favorite passages. It's the very first page and it says, I will tell first about making a new friend and save the dead body for later. This follows the traditional rules of storytelling. Lure the reader with pleasant scenery and lively dialogue. Introduce a few appealing characters and then, aha, discover a corpse. I just love it. So such a cute book. Definitely recommend it. My suspect for episode 1 was An Undercover Spy. Read a book that has a hidden identity. And I will pop a picture in right here of the book that I read because I don't have a physical copy of it. I checked it out at the library, and that was Wondersmith, which is the second book in the Nevermore series. I read the first book in January, I believe. I love this series so much. I love all the characters. I love Morgan. I love Jupiter. There isn't a whole lot I can tell you about this book that doesn't give away a lot of what happened in the first. So the reason I chose this is that in our first book, Morgan had to complete all of these trials to become part of a secret society. Well, in the first book, she doesn't realize or doesn't know what her secret talent is. And Jupiter North keeps telling her that eventually he will reveal it to her, or that she will eventually figure it out. So by the end of the first book, she does in fact figure out what her hidden talent is. But in book 2, it is told that it has to remain a secret from everybody. So I thought that that prompt was perfect for that book. But in addition to that, there was another character in the book who was also keeping a secret, and was not who they appeared to be. You guys, if you are fans of Harry Potter, or any like magical realism type book about young children in magical schools, or secret society type things, this series is amazing. Amazing. I devoured both books so fast. And there is a third one that I have not read yet. I think it's called Hollyhocks. So the first one is Nevermore, The Trials of Morgan Crow, then Wondersmith. There's actually like a subtitle too. I don't remember what it was. Hollyhocks is the last one, or Hollowhawks. I cannot recommend this book and this series enough. Again, 5 stars for me. I absolutely loved it. And it was actually the first book that I read for the readathon, because I checked it out from the library. And then the last prompt for my episode, of course, is The Victim. And that was a professor who is famous for giving out bad grades. Read a book set in a school. You guys, so I read The Scandalous Sisterhood of Prickwillow Place by Julie Berry, which was also a gift for my murder mystery advent from Rachel. Also sad that I did not film a reading vlog for this book. It was so cute. I absolutely love this book. And again, like, I know I didn't show, like, look at the cover art on all these books. I read such pretty books. So this book takes place at the St. Etheldra's School for Young Ladies. And one evening at dinner, their headmistress and their headmistress's brother fall dead at the dining room table. And instead of immediately going to the police, the girls are worried that if they tell that the headmistress has died, they will all be shipped off to different schools or back to their homes. And they have created this like bond and friendship, and they don't want that to happen. So they go about pretending that she is still alive. And one of the girls actually is a little plumper. And so they dress her up in the headmistress's clothes so that she can still be seen in society. It was hysterical. And it was just like one thing after another. Like, they think they're fine and then something happens. It was so funny. It actually had me laughing out loud. And it was such an amazing, like, murder mystery middle grade book. So again, 5 stars. I could not recommend it more. I just absolutely loved it. In addition to the beautiful cover art in it, it also had an amazing illustrations in the front of all of the main characters in this book as well, just like Aggie did. And I absolutely loved it. The characters were so funny. Each one of them just had such an amazing personality. And one of them was really into science. And I don't remember which one it was now. She was really into science, and so she kind of sets about to be the one who figures out what actually killed their headmistress and her brother. I can't remember which one of them was the science girl. I don't remember, but so cute. So that wraps up episode 1. So for my second episode, one of the books was not a middle grade. Like I said, it was my buddy read for that. And then the other 3 were all audiobooks that I listened to with my children. We are in the car so much, traveling back and forth between their activities and my daughter's play practice. And so we listen to a lot of books, and 95% of those are, of course, middle grade. So yeah, let's talk about those. I'll pop in pictures of the 3 audiobooks here as I talk about them. My setting was Ireland. Read a book in an international setting, and we read the 3rd book in the Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place series. That one is called The Interrupted Tale. This series is about a nanny or a governess and 3 children called the Incorrigibles who were found in the woods near Ashton Place by Mr. Ashton. And so these children were raised by wolves, like actual wolves, and they howl and they're very fascinated to chase squirrels. They actually have a pet squirrel that they call Nutsaroo. And I absolutely love this audiobook series. I highly recommend it. The narrator is amazing and she does such cute voices for all of the kids, whose names are Beowulf and Cassiopeia and, oh no, what's the 3rd kid's name? I don't remember. I'll put it on the screen. But it's such a cute story. So in this particular book, they are actually not at the mansion. They're not at Ashton Place. They are in London at the school that their governess used to attend, and a mysterious change is happening. And so the children and their governess set about to make things right for the girls at the school. And it's such a cute story. So that was my setting for episode 2. And I do believe I gave that book either 4 or 5 stars as well. Again, I'll put it down here. But my kids and I really enjoy that series. I think there are 2 more books in the series. And yeah, each book kind of piggybacks off of the other, but they're for the most part kind of standalone stories. They do kind of have a running connection through them because there is a curse on Mr. Ashton, and so some things have kind of been revealed in each one. So I would definitely say you probably need to read them or listen to them in order, but each one does kind of have its own point, if you will. So yeah, my sidekick for episode 2 is Mort, and that read a book in a series. We started the Green Embers series, and we absolutely loved it. It is a book of 2 rabbit siblings who in the beginning of the book witness a devastating attack on their home, and they believe that their parents and younger sibling are dead. And so they set off to kind of uncover, the mystery behind their family and what's going on. And it feels very much like a Wind in the Willows meets Narnia meets any book about little critters going on epic journeys. I do believe there are several books in this series. We've only finished the first one. We are kind of jumping back and forth. We're reading several series at the same time. So we've been in the middle of the Incorrigibles and we're in the middle of the Vanderbeekers. So we're kind of trying to finish the ones that we've read multiple books of, and then we'll go back and finish the Green Embers. So I'm very excited to see what's going to happen because so many things were revealed in the first book. And these little rabbits, I have a feeling, are going to go on quite an epic adventure. So I'm very excited to see where that story goes. My victim for this one was a wealthy businessman, and so you were supposed to read a book set near water, and this particular prompt is my only non-middle grade book of the month, and that is Bone Crier's Dawn by Catherine Purdy, which is the 2nd book in the Bone Crier's Moon series. Our main characters, Aless and Sabine, are bone criers. And so they kill animals and collect those bones because their bones hold special powers that when the bone crier obtains them, they are able to do certain things. But in addition to that, they also have to They have to lure and sacrifice them so that they can in turn ferry the dead into the underworld. It says, it's a matter of life and death. Bone criers have been ferrying the dead for centuries, a dangerous duty that requires the sacrifice of their amores, the men destined to love them and die. But Aless, Sabine, and Bastian are working to chart their own course and rewrite the rules of the afterlife as they try to break the soul bonds that have led to the death of so many, including Bastian's father. Sabine struggles to maintain her authority as matrone of her familia, the role always destined to be her sister's, even as she fights to control the violent jackal power within her. Bastian is faced with a new dilemma as the spirits of the underworld threaten the souls of his friends and his father. Aless attempts to resist her mother's siren song as she's drawn into her own version of the underworld. How will she save her friends once she's cut off from their world? The pulse-pounding follow-up to Bone Crier's Moon is a story of love, sisterhood, and determination as three friends find the courage and power to shatter the boundaries between the living and the dead. On every full moon, the Bone Criers have to ferry the dead into the underworld, and they either get to go up to Alara, who is the moon goddess and basically heaven, or they have to go down to Tyrus, which is kind of their version of hell. And the gates to those worlds open up in the ocean. So book near water. This one was not my favorite. I liked the first one way better. I believe I gave this one 4 stars, maybe 3. I don't remember. I felt like a lot of it was slow and we really didn't kind of get into the meat of the story until the very end. There were parts of the book that did make me sad. I did ultimately like the way the story is wrapped up, but I have to say I feel like the last 2 chapters of the book were my favorite of the entire book. So I definitely think you should read the series. I just preferred the first book to the second. And last but not least was My Suspect, which was Jessica's niece or nephew read a book about family. And my kids and I listened to book number 2 in the Vanderbeekers series, which is called The Hidden Garden. We absolutely love the Vanderbeekers series. It is about a family who lives in Harlem. They are a biracial family with 5 children and a lot of pets. They have a rabbit named Paganini, which I think is so cute, a dog named Franz, and a cat named George Washington. And they are such a fun bunch of characters. Each one of the children has just such a cute personality. I have to say, I think the youngest one, Lainey, is my favorite. She is, I believe, 6. And she is so quirky and fun. And in book number 2, their neighbor and really good friend, Mr. Jeet, suffers a stroke. And so they're hoping to do something special for him and his wife because he's kind of like a grandfather to them. So they find a hidden garden, which is a plot of land next to a church. And they secretly fix the garden up for Mr. Jeet. And it is such a sweet story. I love everything about the way the Vanderbeekers stories unfold because it's true little kid shenanigans and they get themselves into trouble because they should probably have just said something or done something differently, but it always ends up being super sweet. We are currently in the middle of reading book number 3, and I will not lie, guys, I have never cried so hard at a middle grade book. Chapter 18 of book number 3 of the Vanderbeekers had me ugly crying in my car. So, but anyway, this has been such a long video. I have been so rambling. If you have made it this long, thank you so much for sticking around. To let me know you've made it this far, pop a book emoji in the comments below. And let me know if you have read any of these books or listened to any of these books. I truly enjoyed them all. I think my favorite of all of my March books, though, was The Scandalous Sisterhood of Prickwillow Place. You have to go get it. Like, I don't even care if you don't like middle grade books. Go read it. It was fantastic. Thank you so much again to Abby and Heather and Nina for coming up with such an amazing readathon idea. I was so happy to participate, and I will leave all of their channels linked below. They have all done videos for this readathon, and you definitely need to go check them out. So yeah, thank you so much for hanging out. I know it was long and rambly, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.